school is saying there will be no more classes offered in Russian. Orthodox Church considered this the last victory over Islam.
You are a latte art champion, huh?
Over 75% of Estonians claim zero religion. So this was one of the old KGB prison locations.
The Estonian Jews who were not killed by Soviet occupation were killed by the German occupation.
They have this digital nomad visa.
So what is stopping people from just flooding in here and moving here? All right, welcome to Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia, and I'm here with my new friend Micah, and he's going to show us around Tallinn here and give us a little idea of what's going on in this country on the, I guess it's the North Sea, right? Is this
Baltic Sea.
Baltic Sea.
Yeah,
there we are.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we are. The Baltic Sea and this cruise port that a lot of cruise ships have gone into. And we're going to get an idea of kind of what life is like here, you know, especially since this country has such a Russian influence. And there's so many people here that are native Russians or ethnic Russians, I suppose, and what's happened after the war started in Ukraine. And so we're going to get into all that. He's going to give us a tour of the city. So why don't you just take it away, man?
Yeah.
Where are we at right now?
Yeah, so this is Town Square right here. So this is the very center of our Old Town district. Old Town goes as far back as like 1100 AD. It's just this old, ancient part of history here in Estonia. You can see our town hall is very medieval looking. This is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So a lot of the streets, a lot of the buildings are original. They're maybe restored, but they are what has been here for over 500-600 years. We're far enough north. We're at the same latitude as Juneau, Alaska. And so as a result of that, we have kind of 6 hours of sunlight in the wintertime.
Wow. Okay. So do you get really depressed? Do people get really depressed here? They get that sad?
It's a very high depression rate in Estonia.
Okay.
1 in 3 youth in Estonia are affected by depression. 1 in 4 general population are affected by depression.
Oh, wow.
So it's an incredibly high depression rate. Weather has a big part in that. But we're here in summer, and this is a picture perfect Estonian summer day. Bright sun.
It's beautiful here.
The sun's not going to set till 10:30 tonight. It's gorgeous.
So where are we at now? What is this?
So this is the Russian embassy, and the Russian embassy after the invasion, there actually was staff here upon the invasion, and then just recently the Russian staff pulled out of Estonia. So now it's an empty building, but as you can see here, there's still lots of protests, lots of signage about the war, about anti-Putin propaganda.
So this is all the stuff. So this is all kind of anti-Putin propaganda. Huh?
Yeah, and to me it's kind of sad.
Navalny here?
3 years ago there was, nothing about this building that would draw a crowd, and now it's like every tour of Tallinn, we have to take people by here because it's an accurate sentiment of the anti-Russian sentiment here in Estonia. We have a really large Ukrainian refugee population here as well. Right after the war began, I think we had upwards of 25,000 Ukrainian refugees. And to this day, that number's beyond that, 40,000, 50,000. And when you're in a country of 1.3 million, 50,000 refugees, that's a huge population boost.
Wow.
So now there's, a huge Ukrainian population here. And so between the Ukrainians, between the Estonians, extremely anti-Russia.
So how has that impacted, the population here? If you've got that many people coming in, where have they stayed? Where do they go? What has the government provided housing for them? How's that kind of worked?
When the war started, they actually kept them on a cruise ship.
Really?
So you mentioned some of the cruise ships that are docked there. They had one dedicated to Ukrainian refugees.
Oh wow!
And so about 7,000 refugees lived on a boat, just docked full time in the harbor while they were still trying to integrate them into society. By now, they're pretty well integrated. They're all in different neighborhoods. We have a few predominantly Russian-speaking neighborhoods. A lot of them have integrated into those areas. But I mean, like, there's still a huge Ukrainian population just in general around.
So is there a big fear that Ukraine would fall, or what's the thought?
Especially when the war started, there was a deep sense of dread. I wasn't here when the war started, but our friends who were here say like it was just terror, absolute terror that an invasion was going to start in the Baltics any minute, any day.
And you're close to Belarus as well, which is kind of, how would you describe Belarus in relation to Russia?
Belarus would be a close ally to Russia. While they've tried to remain somewhat independent, they're still very much a Russian ally. The Belarusian president is considered a Putin puppet. He was placed there by Putin, and he's there kind of serving all of their needs. And any request that Russia makes, Belarus is quick to comply.
Okay.
This actually here, this is some KGB prison cells. It's a museum now. Here we can, yeah. So this was one of the old KGB prison locations. And now it's a museum.
So when the USSR, when this was a part of the USSR, this is where political prisoners would be brought,
Yeah.
anywhere to interrogate them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is Olevista.
Okay.
This was the tallest structure in Europe for a couple hundred years. In Tallinn, it was illegal to build any structure taller than this one. And so you'll see in Old Town, none of them get higher than the steeple. Even the ones in Upper Old Town, which are on a hill, are not as tall as the steeple here on Olevista.
And this is Greek Orthodox, or?
No, this was Lutheran.
This is Lutheran.
So the national religion of Estonia is Lutheranism. And so the Russian population is still very Russian Orthodox, but a lot of the Estonian population has their roots in the Lutheran Church. So Estonia was one of the last countries to be Christianized. So while the Germans were kind of on their last missionary crusades, as they headed up north, Estonia was the last country that had not yet received the gospel. The strategy of the KGB to eliminate Christianity in Estonia was to force all of the church to worship in one place. They said there's so many of your denominations, you got Baptists, you got Presbyterians, you got Methodists, Orthodox, all of you guys can't hope to agree together with what you believe. So you're allowed to worship. They gave them the freedom of religion. So you're allowed to worship, but you have to worship in this church. And so they forced every denomination to have their worship services together. And the result was totally unexpected by the KGB, because what began to happen was revival broke out. There was I was told by a pastor, there was a KGB stand right here, because they had to keep track who's coming to worship. And they had people coming out of the church and evangelizing the KGB officers, trying to convince them to come to church. So it just totally backfired on the strategy. And actually the revival ended when freedom of religion was established and they allowed people to go worship in their own churches. That's when the revival actually ended, was when people could go to their Methodist church, to their Baptist church, to their Lutheran. Revival stopped when we stopped worshiping together. And now instead, Estonia is now known as the least religious nation in the world. Over 75% of Estonians claim zero religion. So I like to say, yeah, the national religion is Lutheranism. The national religion is apathy. It's not agnosticism. it's not atheism. I would say most Estonians are like kind of like, there's a higher power. I just don't care. Life is pretty good. So Estonia is starting to be considered like the Silicon Valley of Europe. It's easier to start any sort of startup company here than any other country in the world. It takes you 10 to 15 minutes of an online application. So you'll just find all throughout Estonia tech startups and all kinds of small companies, new companies starting. Our biggest companies are like, there's like a bank transfer company, there's an app, several app development companies. So the tech industry has grown massively in Estonia. And so like your average Estonian, everybody's really well educated. It's got one of the highest literacy rates in the world. And so like homelessness is really low. And like I said, there's free healthcare. So you'll find maybe their average income is lower than the American income, but when you're not having to pay for insurance, you're not having to pay for, healthcare and like things that we would normally have included into like an American financial package. They don't have that. Rent is often supplemented by the government. We get paid to have kids here. There's incentives to have children.
What kind of incentives are there to have children?
So,
how does that work?
So from the government, you get €80 a month per kid until you have 3 kids. When you have 3 kids, you get 100 a month. And that number keeps on going the more kids you have. And then when you have the kid itself, the first several months, you get paid maternity and paternity leave. Maternity leave is 18 months paid leave at 70% of your pay, all paid by the government. So like not even your company has to provide that. The government provides it. Paternity leave is, I believe, 6 months paid leave. So you could, in theory, have one parent off of work for 2 years every time you have a kid. You're looking at like about $3,000 a month average income. But cost of living is a little lower. And then, like I said, some of the other financial things, they just don't have to worry about as much. Free public transport and yeah.
So tell me about the cost of living in daily needs, say like rent or food, that sort of thing. What does it kind of cost here?
Yeah, I would say you're looking at, it just depends on the neighborhood. A lot of Estonians would own their own property instead of rent it. And so like you can look at a big apartment building, most likely they're not all renting from one landlord. They all bought their individual flat. And so then they're not paying rent. And usually one of those flats costs, it depends on where you live, could be anywhere from 20,000 to, 400,000. But when you go to like a lower income area, you're spending 20,000 to buy your own flat and then you never pay rent. You just pay maybe taxes.
So do a lot of people own here then? Their own home? Okay.
And multiple homes.
So Airbnbs or rental properties?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or just a summer home that's just never filled. So it's very common. You'll find like, I would say like 95% of the people we see right now on this street are not Estonian. Most Estonians will leave Tallinn for the summer and they just go live in their summer home.
Okay.
And it's anywhere, like that's out in nature. It's like very sparsely populated areas. And nature and Estonians are just like perfect. Like that's just what they want. They just want to be in nature. They want to be in peace and quiet. Most people that live in Tallinn don't want to live in Tallinn, but they have to for work. So then they go out to their summer homes any chance that they get. Our apartment building, we have maybe 10 flats. It's almost empty every weekend. Just me and my wife just hanging out.
So for summer, you say most of them leave for the summer. Can they take like a month or 2 vacation, or how does that work?
Most companies provide at least a month paid vacation.
Oh, wow.
At least.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes 6 weeks. It's ridiculous.
So what is stopping people from just flooding in here and moving here? Things are inexpensive, you can work remotely.
Yeah. It's hard to gain residency, like permanent residency. A lot of companies aren't hiring outside of Estonia because they're trying to prioritize Estonians first. But there are all kinds of visas. They have this digital nomad visa where you can work from a company in Estonia and hold a visa for Estonia but live somewhere else. So live somewhere else in Europe if you're working for an Estonian company, or vice versa. You can work for a European company but live in Estonia, and you can gain permanent residence that way as well.
Oh, wow.
But permanent residence also means you have to learn Estonian, which is considered the second hardest language in Europe, second only to Finnish.
Oh, okay.
So,
So to become
gain-
a resident,
you gotta study.
gotta
the
be a
books.
linguist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
It's a hard language to learn.
Okay.
This is the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. So this is definitely the largest Orthodox church here in Tallinn. And you can see, actually, it's got an interesting Orthodox cross on the top. So normally the Orthodox cross just kind of ends with that slant down there on the bottom, but this one has a little crescent on it. And I asked my friend, why that? Why the crescent? And he said that the Orthodox Church considered this the last victory over Islam.
Oh,
actually, wow. that putting the crescent moon was kind of like putting a stop on like Muslim presence in the Russian Empire.
Oh, wow.
So when they came here, it was kind of like, this is our victory. And they just claimed it. And this is one of the only crosses that actually has that crescent moon on it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, so what is this? Where are we at here?
So this is one of the two viewing ports of Upper Old Town. We're gonna get a really nice look of Old Town and City Center, which is kind of the new town. So you can see a hard line when bricks stop and glass begins.
It's like there's some cruise ships in town.
Yeah, probably. Actually, it looks like all three of those are ferries to Finland.
Okay.
Maybe one of them would go to Stockholm, but there's almost always two in port, and then they'll leave about once every hour. So, and you see kind of past that large group of trees there, buildings start to be a little more vertical and block. That neighborhood is called Lasnamäe, and that is now one of the most like concentrated Russian-speaking neighborhoods left in Tallinn. Probably the lowest income area in Tallinn, but it's still extremely reminiscent of Soviet Union buildings. A lot of them are from the Soviet era. So that's kind of one of two like predominantly Russian neighborhoods now. There's always been kind of an anti-Russian sentiment in Estonia, especially in Tallinn, where we're pretty far away from the border. And kind of what has begun to happen, even in government policies, even in political things, there's been decisions made to cut the Russian language out from Estonian culture. So we've begun to see Russian taken out of public transport. Now whenever you come to a tram stop, you're only going to hear Estonian, maybe English. When you're on a bus, Estonian, maybe English. When you're on the tram, definitely no Russian, just Estonian and English. So like we're starting to see Russian language try to get pushed out. Even in schools, we have a friend who he's Russian speaking, his wife is Russian speaking, so their kids predominantly just speak Russian in the household. But now they're going to school where school is saying there will be no more classes offered in Russian. The public schools only offer it in Estonian. And so the Russian language, it's the one part of culture that's trying to get pushed out. And we're gonna go to a neighborhood later called Kopli, where it's kind of being renovated, it's being gentrified, but that means rent's going up, and it's a predominantly Russian populated area. And so because of that, income is lower. So as it gets renovated and gentrified, rent's gonna go up, and it's going to push out a lot of the Russians there. And so some people are even suspecting that's kind of the low-key way the government is keeping Russian people out from North Tallinn and turning it back into a Estonian predominant area. So now when we're looking over to the left here, this is North Tallinn. So this is our neighborhood. A Kalamaya is the name of our neighborhood. That in Estonian means fish house. And so where we live now was kind of the fisherman's district for years and years and years. Most recently, you'll see, when we walk through there, you'll see these houses from the 1800s that are like almost exactly the same for the past 200 years where the fishermen used to live. So that's where we get our name, Fish House. So this is our neighborhood. The further up you go, that's Copley. That's kind of the gentrifying area. Kalamaya was recently gentrified. I have Estonian friends who say like 20 years ago, you didn't go to Kalamaya. Like you just didn't want to go there. And now it's like the hoppin' place. So this is our market. We buy all our produce and fruit here in the summer. You'll find fresh berries, all kinds of fruit, produce, mushrooms, all right here.
Kind of hungry for some fruit now.
Yeah, we should get some. Tere, kas sul on massikad Eestist? Ei ole? Ah. Jaa, pole. Võib-olla. Suur aitäh. Kene päeva.
Where are we at now?
This is the inside of the market that we were just at. So that outside is the kind of fruit vendors. Inside, this is their like food court, street food area. And then on the other side, we got more fruit vendors that are here year round. So it's one of my favorite cafes here. Good friends with this barista. So we'll go get some coffees.
Okay.
Tere! See on minu sõber Ameerikast.
Let's watch her technique here. See if she makes it well.
Here's the footage you actually want, though. These are all her awards for being, you know, like, this is third place, first place.
Oh, for latte art.
Yep.
Oh.
Avatrine is
So let's see,
Parimaistis.
what's the best design? Okay.
You're gonna try what?
Unicorn.
Oh, you're gonna try unicorn?
Oh, let's do it.
Hey, no pressure already.
Oh my goodness.
Avatrine!
That was amazing. And that is why you are a latte art champion, huh?
So this area, Teleskivi, literally means brick. But it's all these old factories that have been kind of remodeled and refurbished. But it's sort of the start of North Tallinn. Our neighborhood is right next door to this one, also in North Tallinn. And this is kind of where North Tallinn started to get cool. Maybe, 20 years ago, people wouldn't even venture into this area unless you wanted to buy drugs or, buy alcohol. And now it's like, there's a place for kids, there's a place for families, there's a little bit of everything. Just so cool.
So could you get like an artist loft down here, that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. There's some apartments in these buildings. This factory here is currently under renovation, so it's going to be something cool.
So if you were, say, 20-something years old, and you're a digital nomad, and you want to live around the world, you got a job, is this kind of the area that you'd go to?
For sure. This area, into Kalamaya, this is kind of like the expat home.
Okay.
Not just her. There's a lot of Estonian families here as well, but I have a lot of friends who are either in startups or they have startups, and they live, they hang out, they work, all right here. There's a cool coffee shop right there. You can literally spend a whole working day just working in there from home. So now we're in my neighborhood. This is Kalamaya, the fish house neighborhood. Any of these buildings that you see with wooden slats that kind of look like this with slanted roofs, these are the fish houses. And so some of these are the original houses from like the 1800s and have been standing ever since. A lot of them have been renovated now. Like we were saying, this whole area kind of got a facelift. Now lots of people want to live here when 20 years ago nobody did. But you still occasionally find buildings that have not been renovated, so much so to the point they don't even have running water. And so there's a few buildings here. Maybe we'll be able to pick them out, I don't know. If you live in a building with no running water, the city provides you with a membership at the local sauna, because the sauna was the bathhouse of the 1800s, 1900s. And so you get a free membership to the local sauna so you can go bathe and have running water. Crazy.
So wait, so these people don't have running water? And
Still. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's not many. There's very few.
So the rent must be super cheap
The
then.
rent is dirt cheap. Or, I mean, they probably own the house because it's probably stayed in the family. And
Is there any way to get running water to those houses? Like, would you have to rip
I
everything
think
up?
they would have to rip everything up. And so you'll see in Kalamaya, like all the time, we're having road construction, they're tearing things, and it's usually replacing the pipes. And it's usually like fixing things up with the sewage and water and yeah. So it would be in houses like this. Like this one might have been renovated, but you can see like the basement's all boarded up. It's an old house for sure. Still got like sheet metal roofing instead of tiles.
So it is this interesting dichotomy of we're number one in innovation.
Yeah.
We have all these startups. We created Bolt and we created all these different things. Mixed with, we have houses with no running water.
Yeah. And we're gonna find more of those the further north we go into Tallinn as well.
Okay.
Like I said, North Tallinn was the low income area,
Yeah.
but now it's one of the higher ones. This is like one of the most desired places to live now. So this right here is our cafe. We're called Collab, and it kind of stands for three parts. The Co stands for community, stands for coffee, and stands for collaboration. So those are kind of like the three bases of what we want to do. We want to serve good coffee, we want to create good community, and we want to collaborate with local businesses. And so we can go in and we can go check out the space.
And why did you guys start this cafe way out here? It feels like it's far away from everything.
Yeah. When we started, we were actually closer to the tram stop. When we were kind of by the tram stop, it was a good location logistically, but it wasn't a good location for the feel, for that community aspect that we wanted to go for. And so we made an intentional decision to go further into Kalamaya simply for the sake of we want to be a neighborhood cafe. And sure enough, now it's like I go to the park with my kids and I see our customers there at the park. And it's like, it just makes me feel like we are actually a part of this community here in Kalamaya.
Where are we headed off to now?
We're currently in Kalamaya, which is like the beginning of North Tallinn, but we're gonna go further into North Tallinn now.
Okay.
North Tallinn, we talked about yesterday, kind of this lower income area. You'll notice in the buildings a lot more of these tall apartment buildings that look like they're from the Soviet Union, because they are. But what you're also gonna see in Copley are little pockets of gentrification. The government and businesses are starting to move up into this northern neighborhood. And I think in 10 years, it'll look just like Kalamaya. But there's good and bad with that, right? If we're increasing the quality of life, that's a good thing, bringing in these new neighborhood cafes and things like that. But then that also drives up rent. And these families that have lived in Copley for generations, it's all they can afford. they'll be forced to move out. And we kind of talked about the dynamic here. Who lives in these lower income areas? It's typically Russian-speaking Estonians.
If I were to move here, is there anything I should be concerned about?
Yeah. Lately, inflation has been pretty bad. Inflation has been going up in Estonia. We had the highest rate of inflation like 2-3 years running now in the EU. But that just means now we're kind of catching up to the prices of Western Europe. So expenses are only now starting to be a concern, but it's still like no more expensive than most parts of America. And then we talked about the darkness. What you're getting to experience today and this week is summer paradise. Estonia is a summer paradise. I mean, highs of 75, sunny like majority of the days, very little rain, pretty dry climate. Like, it is summer paradise. In about 2 months, that's all gonna change. In about 2 months, it's gonna be raining almost every single day, cloudy, we're rarely gonna see the sun. And then come December, we get about 6 hours of daylight total. Sunrise is at 9:30, sunset is at about 3:30. And that's if it's a sunny day, you get sunlight. So that starts to become a factor very soon here. And it remains a factor for a long time. I just heard that we are one of the OD capitals of Europe. More overdoses per capita than the vast majority of the EU. But yeah, it's definitely a problem. Drug abuse is a problem. Alcoholism is a problem. Because mental health is a problem. And I would say if we were to say one cautionary thing, it's because there's not a great awareness of mental health and the needs that it has in this country.
All right, where are we headed now?
Yeah, so we're in Copley, but we're in kind of the like hip part of Copley. And so it'll be just kind of wild. Like, you can see like lots of construction going on, lots of new things being built. But just like right up here, these are like pretty low income housing. And then if you turn here, it's this little paradise. And it's like this really hip area. This is called Põhjalatehas, which is like the northern factory. And so there's like all these hip cafes, and there's a bookstore. We got coffee roasters up here. They do festivals and events. We just served coffee at a camper van festival right here. And so like we got to bring out, we have this coffee van, serve coffee out of the back of, we like drove it in, set up shop, sold coffee for an afternoon, and it was great. So we're gonna go, this is one of our best bakeries in Estonia. So you're in this area of like low income, and then you have this French patisserie, like the amazing French bakery here. Called Karjasesai, which is the shepherd's bread. So let's go in.
All right, so what did we get here?
So we've got, this is a rosemary sea salt braided pastry, and this is a almond croissant. This would be like you can find this actually in most cafes in Tallinn, something with like a almond paste or almond filling. But then this is maybe more Estonian. This is a breakfast sandwich, hommikukukel. And it's just kind of this ciabatta bun. They put on like this really nice kind of butter spread. It's like a butter and cheese spread with some cheese in it. And it's one of my favorite sandwiches.
All right, so I ordered the rosemary thing. Whatever this is, looks delicious.
It's
Let's
so good.
try that out.
I'm gonna have some of this.
It's salty, which is really good. It's almost like a salty croissant, but really good, like sea salt kind of.
It's got that puff pastry, but it's still, so the puff pastry thing, that's not super typical in Estonia. You've maybe tried a few of our pastries that are just like kind of dense, kind of more doughy. We like our rye here, so like we use a lot of dark bread. But Karjasasai is like this. They like do a lot of stuff like this: the puff pastry, croissant, more French style, rather than the like Northern Europe style that kind of the rest of Estonia takes.
And
This is one of our favorites, kiosk. Ta-da. Ta-da.
so this is like a library and
There's a full bookstore.
oh, so looks like used books.
Yeah, like a mixture. Some new, some used. They have like a big English section, a big Estonian section, Russian section. Yeah, live readings of the Tolkien books.
Wow.
Those are supposed to be really cool. They just set up right there on the platform and the stage, and
Do they read it in Estonian or in English?
I think English.
Okay.
I'd have to see.
This would be my favorite place here.
It is really cool.
Look at the books are designed in.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, and here we've got, this is a good kind of comparison. You saw the pastries at the other
Yeah.
place, more of that French style. This is definitely more the Estonian style.
Very cool.
There is a stigma that Estonians keep to themselves. They like personal space. During COVID, the joke was like, I can't wait until this, social distancing enforcement ends so we can go back to being 3 meters apart instead of 2 meters. So like that's kind of like this stigma of Estonians, and yet the longer I've lived here, the more I realize like there is a sense of community. There is a sense of watching out for each other. If you leave your kid out in a stroller for a nap, like you can leave your kid outside the building right there, people will watch out for your kid. So while there's maybe a real strong individualistic sense, there is still a feel of like, let's think of the community, let's think of the greater good.
People care about each other, but just don't get in my personal
Just
space.
don't get in my personal space. And that's, we're finding that's how they care. Like that's a common courtesy. In America, you might walk into a grocery store, greet everybody, hey, how's it going? You might even like get to know some of the clerks. Here, it's like the polite thing is to let them be. But it's just like, how do we look at caring? And that's how an Estonian would maybe give you respect, is to respect your space.
So if I come into a coffee shop and I just strike up a conversation with the barista, they're not going to like that at all.
It might just be a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
I don't think they will dislike it, but coffee shops are a little different. If you do that at the grocery store, different culture. Grocery stores, yeah, it's like, it's totally silent. Whereas
So
like
do
a
they
coffee shop, it's like, there's expected to be a little chit chat.
Would they even say hello or how are you doing or anything like that?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
I tried to say hello. I try to at least give them the good old tere, just hello in Estonian. Doesn't ever get much further than that.
Yeah.
So that's actually, we're starting to see those in America, like maybe on like college campuses, bigger cities. That's an Estonian company. The people who invented these self-driving delivery robots. That's another Estonian innovation, an Estonian startup company.
So that would be, I would say, hey, I want 2 tacos, and it would just deliver that to my office.
So the robot will pull up. You use an app called Starship, and on the app you would deliver or order it. Robot pulls up, lets the shop know it's there. They have a code. They open it up, put in your tacos, close it, and it'll drive itself to your office. It's really fun though. In the winter time, you'll see them. They get stuck in like snowbanks and snowdrifts, and so you'll just see these like little babushkas like trying to push them out of the snowbank, and like
do people ever mess with them?
usually not.
Okay.
No, that's the thing. I would think, man, you throw that in some cities in America, it'd be covered in graffiti, missing some wheels, you know, like stripped down for its copper. Here they kind of just leave them be.
It seems to me that Tallinn is kind of the tech center of Europe. Would you say that, or?
I would say that. We've got some technology here. It's easy to overhaul an infrastructure when there's only 1 million people that live in your country. So shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union, as they're starting to get all this technological advances, they began to overhaul a lot of the systems. So like we have one of my favorite systems here. We have ID cards with a microchip in it that's tied solely to your identity. And that is like your key to everything. So you have like rewards card systems through like maybe the grocery store or even restaurants. You use that through your Estonian ID card. You can get public transportation for free through your Estonian ID card. You can vote online through your Estonian ID card. They have an app that digitizes your Estonian ID card, so you don't even have to like put in a card reader to read your ID. You just put in a code and it attaches your ID to your phone, and then your phone becomes your ID. So you can do everything. You can open up a bank account, you can open up a business, you can all through the ID card.
Is there any fraud because of that, or is it easy to kind of hack the? I mean, probably not easy, but people hack them, and
I think there's actually less fraud because of that. There's less identity theft because it's not like, I don't have an account, like a smart ID account that just has like my name and password. The only device in the world that works with my smart ID is my phone. So when I buy a new phone, I have to go through a whole system. I need to go to a local bank to make the transfer to my new phone, because the only device in the world that can use my ID card like that is my phone.
So if you lose your phone,
oh, you're in trouble.
There's no way to do anything, or what? You get your phone stolen?
You can cancel it, and then but again, you have to go through like a bank or a government office. But like I'm trying to, I worked to get my Estonian driver's license, and like that whole process, everything was like the whole record system was on my ID card. I've gone to the emergency room, ID card, like it is like everything runs through this one form of identification, and it's really, it's something. It's really nice, really convenient.
And I think that's amazing, but it really does scare me if I lose my phone or somehow it gets destroyed. How long is that going to take me to rebuild my life?
It's not too bad, because it would be like canceling a credit card. So you would just reach out, say, hey, please stop all my ID services on my phone. And then you would just have to get it put onto a new device. It would maybe take 30 minutes. Okay. Once you buy the device, going into a bank, make an appointment,
But how would I buy the device without my credit cards and everything that are on my phone?
Hopefully you have a actual credit card. But everything, yeah, you're right. Like everything is so digital here.
Yeah.
I sometimes don't travel with my wallet simply because everything's on my phone. So in Estonia's earlier history, in like the 1900s, 1800s, they would have these choir festivals coming together, and they would sing songs about their country, about their people, about freedom. Well, come the Soviet Union, as an effort to kind of quell any sort of like nationalistic sense, the Soviet Union banned any kind of patriotic song. The Estonian flag was not allowed in public to be displayed. Songs about Estonia were not allowed. Songs in Estonian, like the Estonian language, wasn't taught in schools. It wasn't taught anywhere. And so all things Estonia were just banned. In the 1980s, towards the end of the Soviet Union's hold in Estonia, the people of Estonia, there were two major events that happened. The first was the first song festival in probably decades. And so in this stadium here, for the first time under the Soviet Union, over 100,000 Estonians. Now we're a country of 1.3 million. So 10% of Estonia came together into this ground right here, and for the first time under the rule of the Soviet Union, waved the Estonian flag, sang songs about a free Estonia. People were weeping at the very idea that freedom is on the horizon. One of my favorite songs is called Koit, which means sunrise, and it's a song literally saying like we can see freedom coming. And so imagine here, just all in the grass, the stage right there, that's the choir stage. So a choir of over 20,000 people were singing songs together, but really, the choir was the people. Like the whole grassy area was filled, people standing shoulder to shoulder, singing songs about a free Estonia. And that oftentimes is considered the tipping point to Estonians' freedom. That led to a few other events leading to Estonia's independence. I mentioned one other thing. There was the Baltic Way, and this was kind of the Baltics' sense of declaring independence from the Soviet Union. And people came together to make a human chain from Tallinn all the way to Vilnius, Lithuania. People joined hands, and in the longest human chain in history, stood together hand in hand declaring we want independence from the Soviet Union. So two of the most just incredible acts of declaration of independence in our recent history have happened here in Tallinn, and this is the place. This is a famous Estonian composer named Gustav Ernesaks, and this is kind of like they were. I just read that it's kind of him looking over this, feeling proud for his country. A composer who didn't really get to experience much of the independence that they sang for here in the Song Festival grounds. Now, in 2004, they built this, showing him like, I'm proud of my nation.
So where are we at, Micah?
So this is a monument in honor of the Freedom War, a lot of the final battles of Estonia trying to break free from the Soviet Union. And this wall here, this is kind of a monument to all of the officers, all of the people in Estonia who lost their lives fighting for independence or maybe killed unjustly. You can see here on the wall, these are meant to look like bullet holes. This was a common place for execution.
All right, so we pulled into this coffee shop again here, and I'm talking to Javi.
Yeah.
And Javi, we were just telling them about the Communist Memorial we're just at, and they were telling us that they have some, I guess, family ties or historical ties to the memorial. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What the memorial shows is the death of the Estonian Jewish community, essentially. So my personal ties, my grandfather's fathers, my grandfather from my mother's side, his father's name is on the memorial. The Estonian Jews who were not killed by Soviet occupation were killed by the German occupation. My grandfather's family got lucky that they got sent to Siberia in subhuman conditions that they were, because that meant that they didn't die by a gas chamber. The Estonian Jewish community doesn't exist anymore, pretty much. All the Jewish people you will find in Estonia are mostly Russian Jews, because the Estonian Jewish community, they fled elsewhere.
The structure itself is meant to just be this, it's a long journey, a long walk. You saw lots of names of all the people who have been killed by the communist regime, and it's designed to be just representative of the oppression that the Estonian people faced under the communist Russia. And then as you get out here, and now we're surrounded by apple trees, and they said like it's kind of like the hope for tomorrow. These are young apple trees. They're still, still growing, but there's kind of like this idea of that at the end of all of that oppression, there's still hope.
And with that, we are done touring Tallinn, Estonia, and it's been an amazing adventure, sobering, obviously seeing that memorial and hearing from some people who live here. But I really, really encourage you guys to come check out Tallinn, Estonia. It's an amazing place, beautiful country. I've only been here for a couple days, but I hope I can come back and explore more. And I just wanted to ask you really quickly, Micah, what is it that you actually do here? What's your purpose? Why did you leave, friends and family behind in Michigan to come on out here and work in Estonia?
Yeah, a lot of our purpose for being here is this cafe. We want the cafe to be a light for the community, a place to meet and build community right here. And from the relationships we build in our cafe, we want to be able to have small groups, begin a church planting discipleship movement right here in Estonia, whether that's through the relationships in here or out there. We just want to be able to give back into the community through how we know, and that's through the love of Jesus.
Okay. And if people want to find out more about you or donate, is there a place they can find you online?
Yep. Yeah, okay. I can put it in the link.
Okay, cool. We'll put it in the links down below. And we thank you guys for staying and watching all the way to the end, or at least fast forwarding to the end. And hope you've enjoyed this, and we will see you next time.